Tina was pleased that she'd managed to change her shift at the supermarket. She was doing 2 till 10 and would be working until closing time. Her parents hadn't been too happy about this arrangement, but she was her own person and didn't much care what they thought.
"Obviously something to do with this bloke what's took your fancy,"
spat her mother. What if it was? Her daughter had replied. If nothing else, her change of shift would help her to keep a distance between herself and her family. And if she was likely to see more of Jeff in the evening than at any other time, then she was prepared to do those hours. Danny was surprised to see Tina arrive at 2 o'clock, not having realised she'd changed her shift. "I don't expect you done it to be here at the same time as me," he moaned. Tina had forgotten that Danny also did the 2 till 10 most days. As she walked past him, he stopped, filling up the milk and general dairy shelves. "Here," he called. Tina raised her eyes. She hadn't managed to get past him fast enough. She stopped and turned towards him. "What was all that business yesterday on your checkout?" he queried, a screwed-up face behind his COVID mask. She made out she didn't know what he was talking about. "You chatting to somebody? Customers and other members of staff thought you'd lost it, waving around in just mid-air. Wonder you didn't get carted off."
"If you must know," she replied abruptly, "I was just having a bit of fun."
"In your head, perhaps. Next time try it with somebody for real." Tina had no idea what he was talking about and just left him to it.
"By the way, if you checked the sell-by dates on that milk, I'm sure some of it's a couple of days out."
Danny just couldn't make her out. Nonetheless, he looked at a couple of the milk bottles, and sure enough, they had the previous day's date on them. He cursed under his mask and started checking the rest. It had been a long afternoon and early evening, and Tina felt rather more tired than usual, so was pleased when her mid-evening staff break came. She was relieved that she hadn't seen much of Danny and was still puzzled by what he meant earlier, when referring to her little mess about with her new friend Jeff on the checkout the previous afternoon. As she left the staff room, she noticed a man walking down the corridor away from her. It was Jeff. She was sure of it. Hey, perhaps he was looking for her. She checked her watch and it was 8:15 p.m.
"Jeff!"
she called out to him. He didn't acknowledge, but turned left down another part of the corridor. Tina ran to catch up with him. When she turned the corner, there was no one to be seen. Jeff, or whoever it was, had completely vanished. Tina was beginning to question her own sanity, but made her way back to her checkout to continue until closing time. The next day, as Tina arrived for her shift, she was met by Leanne, the duty supervisor.
"Hi, Tina,"
she said.
"How's the new shift?" "Great,"
she replied.
"I'll have to get used to not being at home in the evenings, but that's no great shakes when it comes to my parents."
Leanne laughed and asked her if she'd thought about getting herself a place of her own.
"Can't really afford it at the moment, and the coronavirus pandemic certainly isn't helping any. Tell me about it."
Tina looked distant and told her about this man who she rather liked. He'd come to her checkout the other afternoon and seemed to be chatting her up, so she'd wanted to get to know him better. Leanne started to take great interest.
"What's he like?"
she asked.
"Tall, dark, bearded,"
she explained.
"Not wearing a mask, I suppose he's exempt. Are you seeing him again?" "Well, I thought perhaps I was going to last night. I'm sure he was here when I was on duty. When I came out of the staff room, I'm sure I saw him walking down the corridor. I called out and ran towards him, then he literally vanished around the corner, nowhere to be seen."
Leanne suggested it must have been Tina getting rather tired due to her change of shift. The imagination can do all sorts of things, and when you're somewhat taken with somebody, wishful thinking often sets in. She then asked Tina what her new friend's name was, and indeed why he would be in the staff private section.
"Jeff,"
she told her.
"The under-manager here, no less."
Leanne went cold and gave her an odd look, but said nothing as Tina left to go to her checkout. When Tina finally finished at 10, she closed down her checkout and headed for the staff locker room. She found Leanne in there, also preparing to go.
"Tina, how long have you actually worked here?"
she asked. She confirmed that it was just 6 months. The supermarket had needed extra staff during the pandemic, so she applied. Leanne approached as Tina zipped up her outdoor jacket and picked up her work bag.
"You won't be on this staff group photograph, then?" "Don't think so,"
she replied.
"When was it taken?" "Last January,"
Leanne told her. Tina asked to see it, confirming that she wasn't there back then. Leanne handed her the framed picture and asked her if she could see anyone on it she recognised.
"There's Danny, unmistakably. There's you and Brian Machin, the manager."
Leanne seemed serious.
"Is there anyone else?" "Keep looking."
Finally, Tina saw a tall, dark-haired, bearded man in the group, and it was undoubtedly her new friend, Jeff.
"Yes, there's Jeff,"
she said excitedly.
"Look, Tina..."
Leanne tried to jump in.
"So that was him I saw walking down the staff corridor last night. But where did he go?"
Leanne gently explained that the man in the photograph was indeed called Jeff. Jeff Watling. He had been under manager at the branch.
"I don't know how to tell you this, Tina,"
said Leanne.
"Jeff died in a car accident just after the start of the first lockdown last March. It was head-on and he died instantly. We were all very shocked and saddened."
Tina shook. What she'd just heard was unbelievable. She knew for sure from this staff photograph that the man she'd met 2 days before at her checkout was Jeff. But, if this was true, that he was dead, no, it couldn't possibly be the same man. Perhaps a brother or just somebody very similar who just happened to be called Jeff by coincidence. Whatever, from that moment on, Tina Worrell never saw that man ever again. Had she experienced the supernatural?